Welcome to the Coffee with Karen podcast, a weekly chat show discussing everything from holistic health to current affairs from a mental, physical and spiritual perspective. Get your weekly cup of positivity with a sprinkling of woo-woo.
Welcome to a Keto Coffee with Karen, Thursday's show where we're talking more about health, holistic health and restorative health. Whereas today's a bit of a mixture. It's a bit more on community, especially during lockdown, combining that with fitness for overall health. So my guest today is Tracey Edwards. Tracey, if you can just share with the listeners a little bit about who you are, what you do, and maybe share your story.
Good afternoon. So I kind of fell into fitness by accident, really. I was a children's nanny when I was a teenager. That's what I trained to do. I moved up to London, well, back to London because I was born in London, but moved back up in the 90s as a children's nanny. And just coincidentally, the local leisure centre in Bromley opened the very weekend that I moved to Bromley. So I came up in October 91 and in January 92, I joined the Pavilion Leisure Centre in Bromley as a member. And I've pretty much been there ever since in one capacity or another, either as a member or as an employee. I trained as a group exercise instructor at the London Central YMCA in 93 and started teaching, a long time ago.
I think that might be the same year.
Yeah, long time ago. My knees and my hips definitely know that it was a long time ago. And then I kind of just picked up a couple of classes at the Pavilion and it snowballed from there, really. And up until March 2020, I was there right the way through, from when I kind of walked through the door as a member right up until it shut down for lockdown. Right. So, yeah, I kind of phased out the nannying as the kids that I looked after grew older, did more and more fitness, started teaching in church halls, kind of did the rounds in all the little local clubs. I never really went down the private club route. That just didn't appeal to me as an individual. Mm-hmm. I got a much better vibe personally from the smaller, more community-based classes, the kind of like less fancy, if you like, leisure centres. A bit spit and sawdust, some of them, but the people that were there and I really gelled, so that was why I kind of stuck on that route. And I went through various different stages as an instructor, as a gym manager, as a marketing manager. I was group contract coordinator for group fitness, so I oversaw group exercise across the whole of Bromley for the My Time clubs at one point, which was chaotic. And then that kind of dialed back. I think it was 12 years ago. They had a staff restructuring and they made the group exercise contract manager role redundant, which was a bit of a bone of contention with some people, but there we go. And so I kind of stepped away from the management role, still stayed as an instructor because that's what I always kind of went into it for. So I always had classes in the background anyway. And then just carried on teaching and was there right up until March the 20th last year.
When everything changed.
Yeah,
and I
totally.
would say, when you agree that, the one thing, or as far as I'm concerned, probably the most important thing for not only people to be healthy and strong and, strong immune system, but for their mental health is having fitness available.
Absolutely.
So having the gyms shut down does seem to be completely crazy, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was teaching 14 classes a week at the Pavilion before lockdown, and then I was teaching at little private places as well. I taught in like a physio clinic for remedial Pilates and lots of smaller venues. I taught a couple of private classes in schools for the teachers when the school day ended for them, and they did a little bit of yoga and Pilates. So I had lots of kind of different areas, and literally everything went on that day.
The whole lot together.
So I had a bit of a meltdown on the Friday night. Another instructor friend and I were sitting in a restaurant in the Glades in Bromley, just having a chat and a drink after work anyway. And we got an email through on our phone saying that the clubs have shut, we're like, oh my God, what are we going to do? Like, you know, this is because obviously as instructors, you only ever get paid for the classes that you deliver. So we had no sick pay, holiday pay or anything like that for quite some years. Then they changed it a little bit. But ultimately, we only ever got paid for the classes we delivered. So now you've gone from teaching 14 to 20 classes a week to teaching nothing, and you've got no income. So mentally for the instructors, I think they all had a bit of a landslide for a good few days, few weeks, few months, some of them maybe.
Yeah.
I'm very proactive and very organized. And I had my meltdown on the Friday night, and my husband's like, Tracey, get a grip. This isn't like you. By Monday morning, I'd literally transferred my entire timetable onto Zoom, and I went live on Monday morning with my first class.
Wow.
Which was carnage. Absolute carnage.
Well, you're just hitting the ground running. You've just got to learn, haven't you, as you go.
Yeah,
and in a way, I don't see that as a bad thing. I think especially in the UK, I think people have been fearful of getting online. There has always been, I know, my sort of pet beef with teaching a lot of the Les Mills classes, with a lot of the interactive ones, so on screen anyway, the fear of, well, I'm going to end up losing my job if this takes on. So I think there's been a sort of a two-way thing, but a lot of instructors like yourself have been backed into a corner and have had to get a little bit creative. And I don't know how any of us would have survived if this had happened, say, 15, 20 years ago, when we just didn't have the tech for us to be.
I think it was a steep learning curve. I mean, I had to buy a new laptop for a start, because my little laptop that I had previous was like a dinosaur compared to, you know, what I needed to deliver good quality classes. And we had a bit of messing around for a while, like trying to do it on an iPhone, then an iPad, and then my actual tax accountant's dad is an IT guy, and I just said, right, tell me what I need to do here. So he got it all set up for me. But, you know, all the ladies and gents who'd been coming to my classes were in the same boat. They didn't know what they were doing. So it was great, really, kind of just jumped all in together and just muddled through. And I always said at the beginning of the class, look, if it all goes pear-shaped, it doesn't really matter. No one's going to die here. You know, if it all goes horribly wrong, come out of the meeting, we'll come back in. It's not like I'm going anywhere. We can do this all day long if you need to. You know, we can stop and start. And obviously, you know, the Wi-Fi was a dodgy signal issue. And then, you know, is it your end? Is it our end? And that sort of thing. So there were a lot of teething problems, but everybody was brilliant. You know, everybody was really thankful and grateful to have an opportunity to do something and to stay connected with the people they knew from their regular face-to-face classes anyway. You know, they saw each other as postage stamp sized on the screen, and they were like, oh, look, there's so-and-so. So it was really great to still have that interaction between those people. And I kind of created a program, and I sell it as the Zoom Express. So it's half-hour lessons. So you literally get 5 minutes at the beginning, everybody chit-chats, right, okay, enough talking. I mute everybody, otherwise they talk forever. We do the half-hour session, and then we come back at the end and we have a quick kind of debrief, and, you know, I tell them, you know, what's coming next and whatever, and they say goodbye to each other. So they've still got that interaction, that connection, and that was massive for them, but also massive for me, because I'm a people person. You know, I'm used to flitting around from club to club, going from class to class, seeing hundreds of people on a daily basis, on a weekly basis. And then to go for like, right, it's just me and my cat sitting in my lounge. It's a bit, you know, a bit odd.
Tough.
But it was hard. It was really weird. And almost, you know, at the beginning, almost quite emotional when you say goodbye to people on screen. I'm like, I'll be back tomorrow. You know, we were doing this again tomorrow. So it was nice for them to maintain a degree of routine. I wouldn't say normality by any means, but they still had a bit of structure, and they knew me and they knew other people that were going to be in the Zoom class with them. So it kind of, you know, it kept them going. We didn't think we'd still be doing it a year later.
Wasn't part of the plan.
Not really. You're not really. But, you know, it's worked really, really well. And I think to a degree, obviously, I'm aware that I've got a captive audience, because a lot of the clubs have been shut and people don't have the option to go to the club and go face to face, you know, and do it in person. Whether the interest in the online stuff for all instructors will wane slightly when if clubs do reopen, remains to be seen. We'll just have to kind of, play it by ear, week by week, and see what happens. But I know that there's a lot of people now who have found another way. And, we weren't expecting this. We hadn't planned for this. We've kind of muddled along with it. But ultimately, a lot of them actually really enjoy it now. And, people get up and do Pilates in their pajamas. They don't even have to get dressed, So it's like, then afterwards, they'll do their class, then they'll go and get dressed, and then they might go out for a walk, or go and meet somebody for like a coffee and a cake or whatever in the street, go for a walk in the park. Obviously, as restrictions change, what they are allowed to do, if you like, will expand. So they'll have more of that social element as well. But I really think, and I almost hope, that the kind of the online stuff will really continue to thrive, because it works really well. And for me as an instructor who didn't drive and was doing everything on public transport,
wow,
eight different venues a week. I mean, my time management is spot on, because it has to be, because I've got to be there, then I've got to leave, and I've got to be there. So, God forbid I was ever late for a class. But, there are a few hairy moments on public transport.
Yeah. A lot of
and it's quite stressful. You get out there and right, I've got half an hour and I've got to be there, sort of thing. That obviously has been taken out of the equation. So that's actually quite nice, in that I'm not running around like a maniac from place to place, but I still get to see the same people in the same classes. It would be nice to be able to go out after we've taught the class and everybody put, regular clothes on rather than gym clothes, and go to a coffee shop and meet, in a small group of people or whatever, like we would have done if we were face to face in the class. But, it is what it is. They've been very kind of like malleable, and been quite open to change on week to week. And they've just gone with the flow. They've been amazing. But I think the members have been amazing, because we've always been a really close-knit group of people, albeit a big group of people. And for them to still have that thread of, right, we've still got our class and we've still got that group of people. Okay, it's a different environment, but we're not completely isolated. And that made a massive difference.
Yeah, you're providing an incredibly important service there, from not just from obviously what they're achieving. I mean, I don't know about you, but have you realised that, who wants to go back to doing hour classes?
I know, I die. I think half an hour like that.
30 minutes is enough.
And that's really interesting, because you think, previously you'd have said to somebody, "Oh, come to the gym for 30 minutes," they'd have gone, "Oh, what a waste of time."
Yes.
But because they're in their own environment and they can stop the housework, or they're working from home, or whatever they're doing, and they can fit in a half an hour session online, and then they can go straight back to doing whatever they were doing before. There's not that transition of, right, got to lock the house up, got to get in the car, got to go drive to the gym, got to park the car, got to get in, queue up. Then you do the half hour. If you're doing a half hour class within a leisure centre, or, a private club or whatever, you've got time either side of that.
Totally.
That makes that a 2.5 hour experience.
Yeah, nobody wants to waste that time.
No, exactly. So this is much more time efficient for people, I think. And they tend to get a lot more done. And, mentally, half an hour, right, I'm going to bang it out, going to get it done, going to work really, really hard, sit down on the sofa when the Zoom goes off, It's like, me particularly. my members are under no illusions how much tea and cake is involved in my day these days. But it's just, it's been a really nice way to do it. It's, we're all friends, obviously, to a degree. I suppose I'm a bit more in control of the class than they are, I suppose. I don't know. I'm leading the class. But everybody's on the same level. There's no kind of like, we work for this company anymore. It's almost like, put your Zoom on, let's have a half hour session with my friends and have a bit of a chit chat afterwards. And the fitness element is obviously important, but it's almost more secondary.
Yeah,
it's more about that contact with people, seeing people. Even if people just put their hand up and wave or say hello, they don't necessarily talk. But because I was teaching at 7 different clubs across the borough, I've had people come in from all of those clubs onto one screen.
Right.
So you've got a lady from the physio centre in Green Street Green now's made really good friends with a lady from the school in Grove Park. you know,
Right.
and they're on the screen, on opposite corners of the screen, having a little chit chat. They never knew each other before. They've never
Brilliant.
met face to face, but they've expanded their social circle and found, you know, common interests with people that they didn't know before. So that's been quite interesting.
Yeah,
So hopefully,
you know, yeah, it'd be interesting to see, you know, how, I mean, you know, goodness, I mean, I do so feel sorry for the smaller privately owned gyms. I personally know a ton of people who, you know, lost absolutely everything because you just couldn't keep that going for long enough. Even the big, like you say, the big sort of franchise health clubs, you know, you are starting to think, are they going to survive this with all the huge rents and things, with all the different venues? So there's going to be a lot of people out there that are struggling. They are, you know, trying to get out to start running, or, you know, the trouble is with lockdown and with everything that it entails, you're right there with the shorter workout, because I think for some, they might think, oh, to have to do a whole hour feels like it's, I don't think I could do it. But
it's a bit of a chore.
Yeah,
you know, when
too much of a chore.
And you know, some of the ladies and gents, they do 2 or 3 sessions, you know, so that I do a triple on a Monday morning, and I do a Pilates followed by a below the belt, followed by an all about arms. So you're getting very different workouts. So some of them do the 3.
They can,
you know, so you do half an hour.
Change.
You got a little 15-minute gap. They go away, they put the kettle on, or they run the Hoover round. They come back, they do the next one. And then they're getting a full body workout, and they're doing, you know, something, but it's bite-sized chunks that physically they can cope with no problem. Mentally, it fits much better into kind of their thought pattern. And at the end of the day, they can still do that, get changed into their civvy clothes, if you like, and still go out and you know, do their daily chores and everything else that their day might involve. So it works. It does work.
Not everybody would be able to even do that. And that is because of your vast experience and from being in the industry for so long, that you can just switch from different styles. There's, you know, a lot of people coming in, you know, maybe a lot of the younger instructors that have just started, they didn't do, you know, exercise to music, so they would have no idea how to actually put a class together, you know, unless the choreography has been given to them and the music's been given to them, they're just not going to, you know, it's going to be difficult.
I mean, I started off obviously as freestyle, and did kind of, you know, the basics, aerobics, conditioning circuits. I never did step, thankfully. I'm useless on step.
Oh, that's what I started with. That was my baby.
No. I can step up and down. That's about it. I can use it as a functional warm-up. That's about it. And my what's the word? Coordination perhaps on a step isn't the finest. But there we go. Can't be good at everything, right? But I started freestyle, and then I did take on a lot of the Les Mills stuff, and I was teaching Les Mills for years. And then before even lockdown happened, I'd kind of moved away from the pre-choreographed Les Mills stuff for a number of reasons. And I was just freestyling and doing a lot more kind of mindfulness stuff, yoga and Pilates, because after 25 years of crashing around and doing impact, my knees and hips were not happy. So I pulled back a lot on the crazy stuff and kind of blended a bit of everything together. So I'm able to provide a very varied program for my participants because I pretty much do it all.
Yeah, and that's good for you because you can't just go, you know, do the hardcore stuff all the time.
Yeah.
I do think that's where I went wrong. When I gave up body balance, I think it all started going wrong. Doing too many of one style, you're on for burnout. So when you were teaching all those classes, when did you start going down more the sort of more holistic sort of Pilates type?
I suppose it was about 12 years ago. I started getting really bad knee and hip pain, and I thought that it was the crazy high impact stuff, and I was doing a lot of kind of combat-y type stuff at that time, and I'd be fine whilst I was doing it. The whole time I was like flying in a class and, you know, on this buzz from doing the crazy stuff. It was great. I got home, sat down, couldn't get up again. And it was like, this isn't right, you know. So I got a referral to a consultant at Guy's Hospital and discovered after years that I'm actually hypermobile in my joints. Now, I'd never even considered this. I just thought I was flexible. I'd always been flexible. And it was interesting that doing less of the kind of high impact stuff and moving more into yoga, particularly, and doing a lot of hot yoga when a studio opened in Beckenham. And I was just dropping straight into really deep hip openers and splits and that type of thing because I was able to.
Wow.
And that's probably the worst thing I could have done, because my hypermobility, particularly within my hips, was not the range of movement that was ideal for me. So I kind of moved away from the high impact stuff, assuming that it was that was causing my injuries, when at the same time I'd kind of dovetailed some yoga into it. And it was actually the combination of the two, the constant repetition of all the high impact stuff, but then the real deep hip openers and splits and sitting in, you know, overextended positions that would be fine for somebody else. But me having hypermobility issues and being totally unaware of that at the time wasn't a good thing. So now I've kind of realized that, and I can adjust accordingly, and I can still do the splits and I can still sit in deep hip openers, but it's just not advisable. You just got to
be careful. I do think that's why sort of things like hot yoga do get a bad name, and that is exactly for that reason. For some people it isn't, it's not going to be the best form for them. It's great if if you've got no issues there, but I mean, I know more people will get injured from overstretching than they will actually from
I mean, I loved it. I absolutely loved hot yoga. And, you know, as a participant, I was going every day in between me teaching classes. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. And it was only kind of when I got to a stage, and it was an instructor, actually a yoga instructor, that came up to me and said, oh, you know, you're a bit offline on that side. And then it kind of all came out about the hypermobility and everything. They're like, you need to pull back on those crazy deep splits and stuff, because you're just, you know, going into the joint. It's not even muscular now.
The actual ligaments probably.
Yeah, but if you're unaware of that in yourself, it's, you know, it was an interesting time, because, you know, some of the tests that the consultant was getting me to do to kind of discover what was going on with me, and he said to me, oh, can you lean forward and touch your toes with straight legs? And I was like, oh, straight down. And he was like, like that. He said, well, you shouldn't be able to do that quite so readily. I was like, but I've always been able to do that. And he said, no, that was a bit weird. And I was like, no, because I've always been able to do it.
Well, you just got used to doing it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I used to sit in the splits as a kid watching TV with my elbows on the floor and my hand, like my chin on my, you know, on my hands. So I was sitting like that forever. And he said, the consultant said to me, oh, you've scored 8 out of 9 on the Baton test. And I went, oh, good. He went, no, that's not good. He said, 0 out of 9 would be good. Yeah. So it was interesting. So I kind of modified stuff, and then of course the stuff that I was teaching reflected myself and you know, my injuries, and that's kind of how I kind of fused the two together. So the disciplines that I do teach is quite varied, and so my program that I offer on the Zoom is, you know, a little bit of everything. So it's quite good in that, you know, if you want to do the mind body stuff, you've got that option, but if you want to do the crazy hit stuff as well, then there's some of that for you too. So, and
have you found that sort of with the last year, it's amazing, really. I'm sure it's to flatten the curve. A couple of weeks. How are we a year later? But have you noticed that more and more people have, well, number one, needed, and number two, actually wanted to come more into the mindfulness sort of arena and doing the meditation?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've got quite a few who would always do the jumping around crazy stuff as well, but they are blending it now with some of the mind body stuff as well, and feeling the benefits from it. They say that it's nice to have that exertion and that push, but it's also nice to flip it over and do the relaxing stuff. And I mean, Pilates is challenging. We know Pilates is challenging. So is yoga, but the slower pace stuff and the more that it in your mind is beneficial to them. And I used to do a little Saturday shout out for the members on my Facebook group, and every week there'll be a different member featured. And the theme running through it was, most people were saying, you know, this has got me through mentally. It's not even about the fact that I feel fit and I feel strong still. I've kind of got my head around it, because I've still got a little bit of time, you know, to do my own thing and see other people on the screen. And it's helped me mentally, which is massive. You know, if you can get a physical benefit, then great. But the thing that's obviously, you know, really doing people in is the mental side of it. So.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, I don't think my fitness level. I don't know where my fitness level's gone, but it's been on the decline for the last few years anyway. Maybe I shouldn't have given up. But again, it's just not been important, has it? It's our priorities have shifted. And I think that's the same for a lot of people. I'm sure I'll start panicking now as we're going to be allowed out.
Yeah. Or not, as the case may be, as the June date gets nearer.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see.
So, yeah, you're right. I think it's the sense of community, because, not everybody's, I've at least still got one daughter with me. One daughter's gone with her boyfriend to Brighton. So thank goodness I'm not actually on my own, because there are there's so many people out there that are. And so I think having something like that you're offering is more than even you probably realise.
I think so. I do a lot of, on the flip side of it, I do a lot of events as well. So when we were allowed to be in the same room at the same time, we used to have...
What was that like?
What was that like? It just reminds me of what that was like. Oh, you could touch people and everything. Those were the days. But I had a Christmas party for my members at Club Langley last year, 2019. And we had 350 people rock up for that. It was crazy. I stood on the stage and just looked. I was with a DJ and I just looked at this mass of people jumping and dancing. It was phenomenal. It was so good. And we'd got 2020 booked, and obviously that went out the wayside. I'd got like a champagne tasting day booked. We have, little picnics in the park together. We have afternoon teas. There's loads of different social things that I organise as well, not least because I like to be sociable and be with people, and, any excuse to go out and have a meal or whatever. Mm-hmm. So the event side of it worked really well as well. And that's kind of what created, I suppose, the foundation for Redox Fitness and events. And that's why it was relatively easy to shift it all onto going online, because the group of people were already there. They were already coming out and doing community events with me and going to parties and having summer picnics and Christmas parties. And, so they'd already got that big connection together. To then completely lose that would have been a nightmare.
Yes.
And the events did go by the wayside for a while, because I was obviously trying to, get the classes established online. But we've done, I don't know if you've seen any of them on my social media, but we've done a few bits recently. In January, we did Fascinator Friday. So everybody that came to class on Friday had to wear a fascinator. It was great fun. It was everybody dressed up, everybody got into it. And, I took photos of everyone and they all posted on my social media page of them in their fascinators. And
Brilliant.
Then in the evening after class finished, everybody came back and we had fascinators and champagne on Friday evening.
I love
So everyone sat at home in their fascinators drinking champagne like we were at the races or something. So that was January. What's today? Thursday. So tomorrow I've got a quiz and cake evening. It was my birthday on Monday, so again it's any excuse to eat cake.
Birthday.
So I've got I think 18 teams at the moment on for the quiz night tomorrow night. So again, they'll all come on, they'll all have a little bit of a chat, and we'll do the quiz, and they get prizes at the end of it and stuff. So there's an online event.
That's what's going to keep everybody. I think that's brilliant, because that's going to keep everybody knitted together.
Yeah.
And it just builds a really loyal following, doesn't it? There.
Yeah.
Because
they're all very involved. I do kind of like little posts on Facebook. So it's always a member Monday, and a member sends me a photo of themselves in and 3 fascinating facts, and then everybody else gets involved with the chat about their facts. And then we do a midweek motivation where they have like a little 60-second challenge, and they have to post the videos of them doing the challenge. And then on Friday we have Photo Friday. So then I put a photo up and they put their relevant photos on. So it just promotes discussion and
engagement. It's all about engagement, isn't it?
Yeah. And they talk to each other.
Engaged.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, it's been a weird one, but it's really worked. It's really worked. And I feel very...
You might not want to go back.
Well, I do think about that on a kind of regular basis, and I just think I'm quite happy. Apart from I'm a bit sick of the sight of my 4 walls, because my house really needed redecorating before lockdown, And even more so now, I'm just like, God, it's drab in here, you know.
Well, that's honestly, I'm in a very similar predicament. I'm in a tiny 2-bed flat, and I'm sure for some, you know, I've got some friends who are in, you know, beautiful homes and beautiful garden, even got a garden. So the lockdown was really tough firsthand. But if you've got space and you've got everything there, everything that you need, I think the whole experience must have been very, very different to some who may not be in that position and may be on their own. So something that you're doing really is a lifeline for some people. And the bonus, they're doing something, they're getting something out of it from a health point of view, which again just seems crazy. We want our bodies in the healthiest they can possibly be. God forbid we catch something, so that we fight it off without any problem. And it just does seem sort of counterproductive to stop the one industry that is providing that kind of thing. But hopefully we'll be out soon. But at least you're still doing something that is combining really the best of all worlds. Sounds like you've got what a mix. You're doing
it is. I think there's so much going on, and you know, kind of like the workshops and the seminars I did face to face before were kind of very varied. So you're always hitting a different client group every time. So you know, so that person might not be interested in that. So you'll do something kind of, you know, more targeted for that particular group of people. And it was very varied and it was very fluid. So, but ultimately a lot of people would do everything because they just wanted to be involved. And you know, they thought, well, it's not something I'd normally do, but I'll give it a whirl. And then ultimately, we loved it. I'm really glad I did it. So it's been really interesting how people have responded to the online classes, but also the online events, and just kind of coming together as a whole community. And they've really got into the vibe of that. And, you know, I'd be very lonely by myself, sitting there talking to, you know, one other person on screen, or, you know, putting all these events on and nobody shows up for them. So they've been brilliant and really receptive to my crazy ideas.
So that helps you with your own mental health.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you imagine, like, you know, being an instructor that goes out at 7 a.m. and flits around like a blue ass what's it from, you know, one place to another, and then you're in your house, 2-bedroom house, next to a train station, you know, with constant background noise and all the rest of it, and you don't have that interaction with people that you're used to.
No, just crazy. Just like, you know, just before we actually hit the record button, I said, I feel like I'm running around like a headless chicken. And I do think that the type of people that we are, that's probably why we're sort of veered towards these kinds of industries, you know, teaching fitness, because we are, you know, we like that whole sort of all over the place a little bit. I don't know about you, but when I did used to teach and I'd flit from club to club, I actually loved the idea that I could just walk into a club, go hi, and not getting involved in any work politics. In any of the clubs. You can just come in like, oh, hi, and leave, and having different places to go all the time. Like, you know, I'm a people person. For people like us, I think lockdown probably hit us even harder. But some have sort of quite enjoyed it.
It's funny because at the beginning, I've got 2 sisters, both younger than me, and both of them are not particularly people. You know, that they've got very small circles, whereas I know tons of people and I'm always out with loads of people. And both of them rang me and they just went to me, you're going to be all right, because like you're not used to being on your own. Like you're used to buzzing around and, you know, fingers in all these pies and this, that and the other. And particularly my middle sister, she just went, this is perfect. She said, I don't even want to speak to anybody else normally. She said, and really interestingly, so my middle sister was due to run off to Gretna Green on the 21st of March, 2020, and get married. So she was leaving. She lives in Dover. She was leaving Dover on the Friday. It was all a surprise. Nobody knew anything about it. Nobody had been told. It was literally a very small amount of people who knew she was going. And then she was going on Friday the 20th and getting married on the 21st, which is a significant date for her. And lockdown happened, and I was like, oh my God, my sister's not going to get to Scotland. This is just horrific. Anyway, she was already on the road when we got the notification that it was happening. So I just said, look, let me know when you get there, sort of thing. So she texted me. She said, we've got here. She said, they've told us we've got to stay in our room, not speak to anybody. She said, this is perfect. She said, I don't want to speak to anybody anyway. So she managed to get married on the Saturday.
Oh, wow.
And she came back down on the Sunday. And then she had 6 weeks at home with her 2 children on like an extended honeymoon almost, where the weather was beautiful. She got to do the garden, walk the dogs, this, that, and the other. So she's had a great time of it, but because it's been very insular for her, which she loves. Whereas I was like, yeah, okay, I can do the work thing, but oh God, I miss going out here and doing that and doing the other. So equally for me, it's, the whole online thing of classes and the events has been a lifesaver, really, because I'd have been a right miserable old bag otherwise. My husband would be like, can you move out or something, because you're really doing everything.
Well, there you go. I do think it is, and that's where we're at. We've got different groups of people. Some are quite happy with the way it is and probably never want to go back to work and never have to go and do that commute again. It will be interesting to see. I mean, I actually used to prefer teaching up in the city because of the buzz of it, and it will be interesting to see if any of those clubs even reopen when they do go back to work, because you just think, well, will anything be open? It's going to be a very different place to the one that they left. So it is going to be quite odd to see what's happening within the fitness industry world, as it were. I mean, what are your thoughts? Do you think the big places will struggle, and maybe the smaller, the ones that maybe if they've been shut down, they've been shut down, but maybe more people will be more creative to create their own little smaller community thing?
I think that, particularly for kind of like big leisure centres, big health clubs, you've got a massive amount of instructors that go in there to provide, their big programs. And I'd say 8 out of 10 at least of those instructors have come away and set up their own little private enterprises. And, members are very loyal to their instructors, and, they will stand by them, and they'll stick by them and kind of, sing their praises from the highest rooftops, as it were. And I will be really interested to see what happens if and when the big clubs reopen, which of those instructors will go back into that setting and who will just stay on the periphery and do their own little community thing. And also to that event as well, which of the members will go back, or who will stay with their own little private instructors, if you like. Which I think that's the next kind of level of uncertainty for instructors as well. We've done it for a year, and it only takes like a month to form a habit. So the members are now in this new way of doing things.
Yeah, why will they?
Will they go back? Will they go back? Do they want to go back and just be a number again?
Yeah, it will be interesting. I mean, because obviously, again, like we say, we do miss the actual physical contact, seeing people. I suppose there might be a difference between, there's difference between just people going to the gym and people who like to do classes, and it is going to be more the people who like to do classes are more up for the more social things. Yeah. I mean, that's very stereotypical, but in general, so I think the gym goers, as it were, unless they can't get the equipment at home, there might be it might be a bit.
This is where I think places like maybe Pure Gym, Anytime Fitness, that are predominantly gym-based facilities rather than group exercise-based facilities might do better. Because they might think, well, I don't need to spend
exactly.
You're going to spend 20 quid maybe going to the gym. You go in ready to train. You do your thing on the the big equipment that you need to go to a gym for. You leave. You know, if you were a kind of a group exercise person, again, I think most of the time they go in ready to train. They don't particularly in the leisure centres. I think you go in ready dressed. You don't really use the
they don't use the facilities,
showers and this and the other, and then they'll leave the building to go for a coffee with their people afterwards, or they might sit in, if they've got a decent cafe facility within the club, they'd use that. But I think particularly those who have now developed a new routine and a new way of doing things that fits into their lifestyle might continue to do the online stuff and then
meet out later
to go and meet in a local coffee shop. I said to the girls the other day, because I've got a studio in my back garden, and it's only like a 3x3. It was a 1-to-1 kind of power plate studio that I just moved everything to the side, and that's where I do my classes. And I've got the other half of my garden, which is just, I say a garden, it's a patio. There's one dead lavender plant in it. Well, I couldn't even keep that alive last year. I thought I'd try a bit of gardening during lockdown. That was a failure. So, not doing that again. But in that other 3x3 bit, I said to the girls the other day, maybe I should put a little coffee shop there. I said, and then I could teach the classes. And then by the time you lot have got changed and come round to this side of the coffee shop, I'll have come through and I'll have made a cake. And that we've got it all then. We've got it all.
You've got it all.
Yeah, we're up for that. Yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, it's. I think it's going to be a shame for these, but yeah, I think you're right. I think there's been too much time for people to adapt to this way of living, and they don't have to get dressed up to get to the gym, which I'm sure some do, and then they're already there. So they can just jump out of bed if they need to do, or whatever time they do a class, then go and have a shower, get changed and done, and actually go out and maybe meet up. So I do think for everybody involved there, actually, it might be a bonus. It's going to be big clubs that are going to lose out, which
I think the big clubs have already lost out, because I think a lot of them maybe could have reacted better to the situation and treated their staff with a little bit more respect, and I think that instructors who are very good at what they do, and they'll go in and they'll give everything to a facility or a club or whatever, without question, but I think the fact that the rug was pulled out from under them kind of gave a lot of instructors a bit of kick up the backside and made them realize they were a lot more valuable and a lot more worthy than they thought they were, maybe. And a lot of them have come into their own now. They've developed a really good following. They've got people who have got their back, and they've got people who are singing their praises and recommending their classes. And I think
it was too easy. It was probably too easy. I mean, I was definitely one of these before. Just they do everything for me. I've just got to turn up at certain time, do the class and get paid for it. Whereas although the pain of, okay, right, I've got to create something different here now it's created. Oh my goodness, they are in so much of a better place, because they can expand their audience. It doesn't even have to be just local. They can go global.
I've got friends that I used to, when I first moved to Bromley, I was a children's nanny, and I had friends who I used to nanny with back in the 90s, and over the years they've all moved away, and they're all back in my classes now. Because I've kept in contact with them, and one of them said to me, "Oh my God, that means I can come to your HIIT class again." She lives in Tunbridge Wells. My sister, shockingly, did a class. I've got a friend who lives in Ireland who comes in to do classes, on Zoom. So
there you go. So why would you
just have your group from local? You've got that option to throw it out to a much wider audience.
And that's it. Yeah, everybody can just grow their own tribe. I think it's going to be an interesting thing to watch. What goes on, and I think especially for you, for not just, it's because it's not just about the fitness, it's not just about you do the class and then you go, having that, combining that with it's not even just an online community, is it? You've already established a local community as well. So having that balance, I think, it's just ticking all the boxes, because everybody is. Although I think people have got light at the end. There is light at the end. He has dangled a carrot. I have noticed a shift.
Yeah, I think so. But I think that, they now know that there's another option. So even if, you go towards the carrot, if you like, and it doesn't quite pan out as people are anticipating, and maybe they move the goalposts again at the last minute, who knows? People now know they've got a fallback. And they now know, well, okay, we'll just carry on Zooming then.
Yes.
You know, it's fine. You know, when one of the clubs that I was teaching at before reopened in the interim, and a few of my lot online were going, oh my God, you're not going to go back, are you? I said, no, we've got this now. We've got this. You know, this will always be it. And you now will always be my priority. If I take stuff externally of that, I will work it around what we've created. And it's always a we. It's never a me or an I, because I can do it on my own. Do you know what I mean? It'd be like, cool. I need people to come in and participate in these classes, or come to my quiz nights, or, you know, put their fascinators on. And I always go, oh my God, I've had a really good idea. And they'll go, oh no, what now? Like, you know, they always know something's coming. We had a Christmas jumper quiz. We did pet posers. So last year, everybody sent me their animal photos in, and people love to talk about their dogs and cats. Yeah. You know, we had a right old month of chatting about animals.
You've started something there.
Yeah, totally. So we had a little, like, the winning dog of the month, and, you know, like totally crazy stuff that's not fitness related at all, but just keeps people invested, keeps people engaged, and, you know, they've got something that's kind of like a bit of a flicker of light maybe in their day, rather than just the same old plodding through, you know.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It's well, you're covering all bases there. So, well, let's hope things are going to move. Otherwise, I'll keep looking at Mexico as an option.
Yeah, I think Dubai's the best place to go at the moment, isn't it? That's the one.
So I'm not sure. But okay, so right, so you've got all this, and just tell us before we sort of pack up. I know you also are from a health point of view as well. Tell us a little bit about the doTERRA that you're involved with as well.
So I kind of got into doTERRA again. I just slid into it by accident. I went to a workshop seminar about 4 years ago now, that one of my Pilates class participants was hosting. She was doing a lot of kind of like therapy and counselling, and she just qualified, and she was presenting this workshop alongside a remedial Pilates instructor and an essential oils advocate. So I went along as a participant to the seminar for the day, got chatting to the essential oils lady, and I was like, oh, I quite like this, you know, because I'm a baby. I cannot take tablets. I have to crunch paracetamol if I've got a headache. So I'd rather go without, because the taste of it is so vile. I just cannot do it. I've tried everything and I cannot do it. So when she said, well, just use peppermint oil, I'm like, I'm sold. And like peppermint oil rolled on your forehead kills the headache just like that. It's amazing. So I kind of got into, on a very basic level, you know, I don't really know a lot about it. And doTERRA is a business model, but I do it for a personal interest. And I've got my mum was very ill last year. She had lung cancer. Thankfully, she's good. Right. She had a big operation. And we've now got, my sister and I have got her on the oils. My sister uses them for all her animals. So I've kind of got a doTERRA membership, if you like, but I do it for my own personal gain. Although I do speak to my participants about it, and you know, sometimes I do buy them oils as gifts if they've got a particular complaint. There was one point in my Pilates class a couple of years ago now where everybody had a cough. I was like, you lot are driving me mad, like you're all coughing all the way through class. So you know the little miniature jam pots you get when you go to hotels? I always save stuff like that for some reason, and I come in handy one day. So I had all these little miniature jam pots. So I made up some little potions, as my husband calls them, using essential oils and Manuka honey. And I took them all in to my Pilates class. I went, right, you lot take those and stop coughing. One dose, coughs are gone.
There you go.
Oh my God, this is really good. So it's just another element. And for me, I'd much rather do kind of like medically based stuff on a natural level, rather than loads of chemicals or, you know, taking loads of pharmaceutical drugs. I don't have really any chemical cleaners in my house. I use doTERRA oils for everything. I make everything up from scratch using kind of like the basics and essential oils. My husband tries to buy Still It Bang every now and again, and I have a complete meltdown about it. And I'm like, don't bring that stuff in the house. So it's just that
you're so right with all of that. I do, you know, I am a firm believer that, you know, with all of what's going on, I am far more for the more terrain theory.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Keep it, you know, Sillet Bang isn't going to kill you. However, if you're nutritionally
good, is it? It's horrendous stuff.
Oh, it is. And if on top of somebody who's nutritionally out of whack, and then add to that all the EMF, that, you know, there is something that adds to it. But obviously, I just don't think we're all looking for this one thing. So we've got all our attention on this one thing that's come to kill us. Whereas there are so many people coming up with all sorts of ailments and illnesses. And because you can't necessarily see them, somebody thinks, oh, well, I was healthy 1 minute and then I've got this particular ailment. But nothing happens overnight, does it? It's a slow build up. It's using these chemicals.
People who, you know, I've got friends who are OCD clean, and I am a little bit OCD to a degree. I like everything in its place. It's all got to be tidy, you know, and I'm a clean and fresh person, but I would much rather make a furniture polish, for example, out of olive oil and cedarwood oil and lemon juice and use that than spray on, you know, a chemical cleaner. I'd much rather make exactly, you know, if you're having a cleaning frenzy, which I do, but if you're doing that with bleach and with, you know, spray on limescale remover and all these other bits and pieces,
not good.
You feel it in your chest for a good few days afterwards, you know, even if you've got all the windows open. So now I've kind of binned all that completely, and I've got it all the holistic side of things, and that just ties in quite nicely. So I use doTERRA oils and Tropic skincare because that's all clean, plant-based, animal, vegan friendly, and they're the only two kind of brands, if you like, that I use for anything now. Yeah, so everything else is banned from the house. So yeah, and it just ties in quite nicely, you know. When we did a face-to-face workshop with some of my class participants, and we had a little oils workshop where the two doTERRA reps came round and they talked everybody through how to use the basics, you know, and what you can do with a very small selection of oils. Everybody was amazed. So, you know, if that just helps them boost their immune system and, you know, how they feel generally. Essential oils are a massive mood lifter if you're going to, you know, use them aromatically. And it's just part of the bigger picture. It's, you know, it's just a whole
it's just another tick. It's not, you know, like I say, it's not going to be one thing, you know. Using a normal shampoo with toxins in it, you're not going to drop dead.
No.
But, you know, all these things, it's like choosing
cumulative.
I like to choose my poison. See, I'm no, you know, I'm aware. Yeah, alcohol is no good. This is no good.
Yeah.
But at least I'm aware of it. So then it's my choice.
And it's your choice.
Yeah.
You know, you choose to take it or leave it, or control the amount you have, or whatever. And know what you're taking and what you're putting in your body.
And it's nice to know that there are
a whole list of chemical ingredients that you haven't got a clue what's going on.
Well, you've only got to smell it to know, really. But at least, you know, people do know that there are alternatives. So you don't have to be using these harsh, harmful chemicals. And it's the day in consistency of everything.
Yeah.
It's you know, you don't clean your house once a year. So
some might, but yeah. I think everybody went mad at the beginning of lockdown, didn't they? And like had their big to-do list of, right, I've got to clean the cupboard, I've got to tidy the loft out, I've got to do the shed, you know, and we got through it and I'm like, God, this is boring. There must be something else we can do.
Well, I think I've been very up and down. I think like you, it's a case of you've got to be doing things. So I found myself at the beginning, I did an online summit, and that was really, for me, I needed to keep busy and keep organized and sort of set something up. And then I did sort of go through when is it going to end? Yeah. And it is quite easy, you know, to throw a pity party. And it's okay to throw a pity party as long as you don't stay in it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, exactly. You know, and this is why I think as well, if people have got a little bit of structure, even if it's only 30 minutes a day, you know, if they want to sit in their pajamas and eat cake up until they do their Pilates class in their pajamas,
it's okay.
And then they're all 30 minutes on, and then afterwards they switch off and they go straight back to it. Fine. Do you know what I mean? There's got to be a balance.
No
you've got to do what's right for you at the end of the day. But it's nice to be able to provide those people with the options, and you know, for them to know that I'm there, and that there's a lot of other people in the same boat who are all having a bad day. You know, you can all come on and go, for God's sake, I've had enough today. And we can do that for 5 minutes. Now, right, okay, that's enough whinging. Mute, get on with it. You know, and it lifts everybody out of it, including me.
And that's what they need. That's what they need. So if anybody would like to get in touch, can you share with the listeners what your website is, or how you get people to find you? How do people find you?
So I have a website, which is more an information-based point, but you can actually book classes through that as well, and that will direct you to the mobile app too, so you can book from there. So that's www.redoxfitnessandevents.com, and that's pretty much got the entire timetable on there and everything that I offer. That also, as I said, has a mobile app, and that has a little bit more information on. So that has a weekly blog and a newsletter. So that's an update of all the social events that are going on, all the kind of social media campaigns that people get involved in. I've also got a Facebook page, which is Redox and Events, Fitness and Events, and you can just request to join that page. That's updated 3 or 4 times a week with everything that's going on, and that's where most of the interaction and, you know, all the banter happens on that one.
Right.
And I do use Instagram as well. That's under my personal name, and that's pretty much a replica of the Facebook. So that's just hitting people
Tracey
from 2 angles.
Or Redox.
Tracey Edwards on Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and I'd be more than happy if any of your listeners would like to come along and try out one of the classes on the Zoom Express. I'm currently running 24 sessions a week across 5 days. And that kind of goes from Pilates and, you know, the mindful, have a little relaxation, to the full out crazy combat stuff. So brilliant, and everything in between. So if anybody would like to come and try that out, they'd be very welcome to do so. They just need to drop me a message on one of those platforms and just mention you, name drop you, Karen, because you're out there.
Oh, that's brilliant. Well, thank you so much for your time. I know you're a busy woman. 24, oh dear, honestly, that gives me a headache.
They're only half an hour.
Doesn't matter. Honestly, I
not like the old days.
I could not go back to it. But I think you're doing an amazing job. You're offering a huge service, not just to the local community, but it doesn't matter where you are. It really doesn't matter where you are. And I think engagement is absolutely key. And it isn't just about the health. It's all about mental health as well, because we're social beings, aren't we?
Absolutely.
We need interaction with other human beings. So even if it does, well, I really hope you continue with it, because I think that instructors we've probably been in the industry about the same time, Tracey, and I don't know about you, but I'm sure the class pay didn't really change that much.
No, it didn't. Not at all. In fact, in some places they even went backwards.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So I do hope that anybody who tries to set out doing something for themselves, I really hope they do, because finally they can actually be paid their worth as well, because it is the more you give out,
it's a lot more satisfying as well when you're doing it for yourself. And you know, if you want to have a day off, that's fine, have a day off, but you just realize that, you know, you've got no income coming in that day, but you're in control of that.
Yes.
And then you realize that you are a valuable person, and that, okay, you may have been part of a massive team before, but you work just as well as an individual, if not better.
Exactly.
And that those people who came to your classes, they weren't there for the facility. They weren't there for the company. They weren't there for the, you know, the management or the flash equipment or whatever. They were there for you, because you had some sort of rapport with them that connected. And it's a different platform online, but it's you've still got that.
I think things will change, and I think more and more people come over. So thanks for your time. For the listeners,
thank you for having me.
No problem at all. And I will be back on Monday with a coffee with Karen. So thank you, listeners. Bye.
Welcome to the Coffee with Karen podcast, a weekly chat show discussing everything from holistic health to current affairs from a mental, physical and spiritual perspective. Get your weekly cup of positivity with a sprinkling of woo-woo.